Hey, welcome to episode 7. I'm your host of the Ready Soda podcast, Corey Watson, and I'm so excited for you to hear this episode. I talk with Allan Wrath all about being salt and light in the area of creativity and how creativity is connected to our calling. And so I hope this encourages you and inspires you. And without further ado, here's the episode. All right, I'm so excited to have my friend Allan Wrath with me today, and he's an amazing man of God. Not only that, he's also an artist. And if you've seen the Ready Salted logo, this is the man. This is the man that created this beautiful salt-shaking, salt-studded.
It's a pretty good logo.
It's a pretty cool. It's a great logo.
I was drawing it, and I drew it, and I was like, does it usually happen like that? And I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Come on.
And then, yeah, I sent it to you.
And that's it. And the rest is history. And here we are, season 1, episode 7.
So I feel like it's an honor to have drawn your logo.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I think it's, you did a great job. I'm sure I told you that already. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, but if you've been seeing the titles, also the Jesus flipping tables, and just the whole look and feel of the podcast really is because of this man that we're talking to today. And we were just discussing the beauty of the gift that God's given you, bro, that without you creating that, it didn't feel real. But the moment that you made it so I could actually see it, it was like it was the launch pad to actually start doing an episode and actually get this Ready Soda movement thing happening. So
I think it's interesting what you say, like, like we can talk about doing so many things or like dream about doing so many things, but, it's that concept of like, I've always thought it's a weird term, like commercially as an artist, you get called an illustrator.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense because illustrating isn't just drawing. You could illustrate a sermon or illustrate through poetry, but it's not until you actually like illustrate something and you resonate with it. You're like, oh wow, okay, this could be a thing.
Yeah, come on.
And it inspires you to take it further.
Yeah.
It has like a factor that drives you.
That's so cool. That's awesome, man. And so Allan's here because he's awesome, but he's also here because he's an amazing artist.
I think you're going to say an amazing Christian.
Yeah, no, amazing Christian. Yeah, definitely. That was my next go-to.
I was waiting for that one.
That was my next go-to for sure. But obviously the whole heart of Ready Sold is to help people stay connected with God and be on mission. And so for us, being salt is what you're called to do. I mean, we've talked a lot about evangelism, we've talked about leadership, we've talked about different things, but we really want to encourage people who are in all these different spheres of influence of what it looks like to be salt, in those places, and not to be like a Christian artist, but to be a Christian and have the gift of, you know what I mean, like not putting that in a box or what that looks like. But I couldn't think of anyone better.
Thanks.
To talk to and pick your brain and help people who are listening today. So
yeah,
thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
He's here in the flesh. Like this is live right now. So
yeah, and it's good to be in Queenstown. Like,
come on.
I don't come down here all that often, but I got here yesterday, and it's just nice to be somewhere different and exotic and kind of, awesome,
fresh.
Yeah, fresh. I feel like we need that, right? Like I definitely need it as a creative to go away, and even if you're working, like kind of just refuel that fire.
Yeah, come on,
and see things differently. One thing I'm trying to do while I'm not here is like get on my phone and just get stuck on my phone.
Yeah,
or like go rest. I know that sounds weird, but I just want to go and like take everything in.
Yeah,
and see everything because I know when I go away with that, it's gonna you can turn it into art. So
come on, that's so good, man. I'm getting excited about this. I'm excited and jealous of the processes that you're talking about right now. But that's awesome. So, Allan, do you want to just introduce yourself and share a little bit of your story? I think it's so relevant to who you are, what God's doing in and through you, and I'd love for people to be able to know you a bit better. So, You go for it, bro.
Yeah, so at the moment I've been working for myself for like the last 10 years. And basically just like in this season, I've just decided to go back and work full time.
Yep.
Just feels right.
Yep.
So I'm actually working as the art director for City Impact Church.
Come on.
So City Impact Church, we've got like a couple of churches in Auckland, and then if you're in the South Island, the ones in the South Island, I'm down here visiting at the moment. But other than that, I'm just into everything creative. So I'm always exhausting myself with like trying to do so many projects.
Yeah.
And just trying to do so many things, and there's so many unfinished projects. And it's like what I was saying about your logo.
Yeah.
There's so many things I start, whether it's a 5-minute drawing or a canvas that's going to take like a day or 2 days to paint. There's so many things that are unfinished because they just don't feel right.
Yeah.
And I just don't have like the emotional capacity for them. But like as I was saying about your logo, like I got your vision, and I was like felt kind of your heart around that, and I just was like, create the logo, and I was like, yeah, this is right. And then you were like, it's right, and I was like, okay, cool. So
that's awesome.
So basically I still do a little bit of art here and there, or a lot. I'm away next week actually in Rotorua painting a mural.
Come on.
At like a local supermarket,
which
has been in the pipeline for a few months. So it's quite exciting to go do that. So I've got this kind of exotic 2 weeks of like Queenstown, extra exotic, going to Balclutha and Invercargill, flying out. Then I get to go to Rotorua, that we call Rota Vegas.
Yeah.
And psyched, eh?
You're living the dream, man. Living the dream. That's cool. And so we were just sort of discussing before about how you actually becoming a Christian sort of connected the dots with the artist in you, or how would you
like as a kid, I would say I remember I would have been 6. The reason why I remember is that we lived in Western Australia when I was a kid. I went to school there, and we'd just come back to New Zealand. I was at my grandparents' house. I had these epic grandparents who lived in Scotland, and every year and a half they would come and visit for the summer and spend 6 months living in New Zealand.
Wow.
And so I was like, got to spend all this time with them on my holidays. And my granddad, who was really, really influential, he used to teach me all these things. We made a David sling.
Oh, yeah.
And we took it down to Maringi Bay.
Yeah.
And he was getting frustrated with me because I didn't know how to like let one string go at a time, and he was trying to teach me. But we'd go on these walks, and one of the days he'd been teaching me about Michelangelo. I'd never heard of Michelangelo, and as a 6-year-old I remember just being like, whoa.
Yeah, wow.
Just hearing about all the artworks and the sculptures and what it's like to see them, and like basically I remember my mum coming to pick me up in the evening, and she gave me a magazine. It was one of these like kids magazines, and on the inside it had pull-out posters. So I'm going to date this. So this would have been like 1989 or 1990.
Yeah.
Pulled the posters out, opened them up. On one of these posters on one side was New Kids on the Block. And I'm like looking at these, I think it was like 3 guys or 4 guys.
Step by step, bro. Come on.
And I was so embarrassed to like open this up and to be this boy band. And I flipped it over, and on the other side was this character who I didn't know at the time, but it was Bart Simpson, right?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I remember like staring at it and being like, whoa, somebody drew this, you know? And I analyzed like I would do now. Like I look at anything that's created or drawn or photography and I analyze it, and I break it down into how they did it. And I did that as a kid. And in that moment, I was like, I want to be an artist.
Wow.
And so as I said, I was 6 years old. I remember like leaving with my mum, telling her I'm going to be an artist.
Yeah.
And basically I went through like school and everything. I got to like Form 2, which is year 8. Mm-hmm. So I was like 13 years old or something.
Yeah.
And my art teacher, far out, Mrs. Storm. She got us.
I'll beat that name out, bro. She's going to remain anonymous.
Nah, I want her to know. Oh, man. She got us to do like a self-portrait.
Yeah.
And it was to go on show, like in the school office area for the open night. And when we got there for the open night, mine was so bad, like so badly like executed that it was at the bottom of the wall at the bottom corner. And I remember going in and being like looking to like a whole class of kids, these like self-portraits back, and I'm like, oh, it's at the bottom. I remember my mum being like kind of awkward about it, like, ugh. Anyway, I went to school the next day and we went through that office bit and all of them were there, but she'd taken mine down.
Oh, wow.
And I remember just being so like, as a kid, like no one had said you suck, but I totally got it
I got the hint.
My self-portrait was so bad. And I think it kind of just knocked my confidence.
Yeah.
And I would only ever draw when I had, sounds weird, not that I had it a lot, but this kid wanted to beat me up in like third or fourth form.
Yeah.
He went to another school and someone told me that kid wants to fight you. And I was like, oh. And then the day he wanted to fight me, he'd shaved his head like a skinhead. And I was like, I'm so scared. And I remember I would go home, not get beaten up, go home. And he would, I would sit and I would draw to kind of pass the time. I wouldn't go talk to my parents about it.
Wow.
I'd like have this like anxiety thing. And I remember looking at what I draw and I'd be like, oh, it's quite good. I was like impressed myself.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I went through all my teens not really drawing and kind of forgotten that I wanted to be an artist. And I reckon it wasn't until I got saved when I was 17.
Yeah.
And the moment that penny kind of dropped for me, I was in a church service. I would have been about 19. And I'd never had any formal training at that time in art.
Yeah.
And I'd never done at like just normal high school any formal training because I was too scared that I wouldn't be good enough.
To another self-portrait.
Plus, I didn't want to paint like bananas and apples and stuff.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I was terrified of the self-portrait. And I remember going into a service where like the pastor of our church, Pastor Bev, she was preaching and her preaching was so prophetic and like there was so much emotion. And I had the sketchbook and I decided I would just draw what I was hearing.
Yeah.
And I remember coming out of that and being like, oh, this is cool. This is like fun.
Yeah.
Not way to pass the service, but way for me to like actually absorb what was being said.
Wow.
So then I started with the sketchbook.
Yeah.
Drawing in it, painting in it. Man, I'd bring the sketchbook to church and it would stink of like spray paint, like enamel spray paint, because I'd been like
Gotta seal it, eh?
like stencils and stuff in there.
Oh, wow.
And I remember like a friend, a guy called Simon Gibbs, I remember him going through it and his mum was there and they're like, this is your art. And I was like, oh yeah. And they're like, this is really good.
Yeah, come on.
And I was like, I didn't know if they would just be nice, but it was enough for me to go, oh, I kind of refueled the fire.
Yeah.
So that's where I reckon going to church, it kind of like opened, it just like opened the door again for me to draw.
Yeah.
And at this stage, it wasn't like, it wasn't me being anxious or like worried about something. It was more so that I was just drawing because it felt natural. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's such a cool story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad that you were actually good, bro, and the Christians weren't just being nice and be like, yeah, that's really cool.
They are generally pretty nice.
They are.
But I have the gift of discernment.
And you like figure it out. Like, you want to sit them up by a wall and say, where would you put my picture? At the top or in the
where would you
right?
put this? If you were going to put this on your wall.
Where would it go? Toilet door. Garage door.
Yeah, I think that's like, I always thought that's weird putting art in the toilet. Yeah. Bathroom's cool.
Yeah.
I've always thought, I don't know where I'm at with that, eh? Yeah.
You wouldn't see that as a compliment?
I don't know.
A lot of people spend a lot of time in there. So I reckon it's got to be.
Yeah, true.
It's got to be a good piece to be seen that many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not get sick of it. One of those 3D ones, you got to like focus your eyes on it and it pops out.
Yeah, the Magic Eye. Do you know what? I researched how to do a Magic Eye. It's called a stereogram.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff just interests me so much. I try to do it for one of our church campaigns.
Yeah.
And then, just...
Didn't work?
Well, I got it to work.
Yeah.
But then I just thought, it's just like, I don't know. I couldn't work out whether it was going to be good enough, like whether it was just something creatives were into and that they would be able to see it. Because you get so many people that are like, I can't see anything. Or my kids get it and they're like, I can see a butterfly. And you're like, it's a circle. They think they can,
you see what you're going to see, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so good. So, I mean, probably a big question, bro, but like, how do you see the gift that God's given you? How does that translate for you? Like, in a way of like glorifying God? Because I believe there's, like we were talking before about, if you can Google, who was the first person filled with the Spirit was actually a guy called, I can't even pronounce it, Bizel, but he was the guy that in Exodus that was like tasked with creating all the temple, the tabernacle furniture and all that kind of stuff. Which is
really interesting because I've never heard of that guy.
Yeah. Well, no one talks about him, but he's the first to fill the Spirit of God.
Amazing.
For a reason of creating.
Yeah.
What was actually meant to mirror what's in heaven on earth, right? And well, that's my point of view, but I'm not an artist. But I think what you do, it mirrors beauty in creation. Like I even think about like God speaking a word and then it was created and it became something. Like the gift of creativity and being an artist, actually, you get to take thoughts and words and like you were saying when you're listening to a preacher and you're writing and painting and drawing, sketching, you're actually creating something out of what's been spoken. I don't know.
Yeah,
how do you feel as an artist? Like,
so the one thing with art I find is because I love to study all different practices of art. Because I did study to be a graphic designer. So after I worked out I was good at art, I then went on to study design. Yeah. And I did that in my 20s, early 20s, which was quite hard, deciding to stop working and commit to study. And then, but it was like probably the best thing I did. But the one thing I find with art, you generally have an interest for it and you'll draw something or you'll paint something and it's generally not very good.
Yeah.
And then you get better and better and better. And the one thing is you, this is a crazy thing with art. You know how you get like these scientists and they want to prove God is wrong?
Yeah.
And everything they do leads to like God existing.
Yeah.
Well, the same as with art. You get like a painting with a whole bunch of abstract squiggles on it and like someone's throwing like a cigarette at it and you're like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
But people pay like $1 million for it.
Yeah.
And you're like, why?
Yeah.
And so when you look at composition in art, you can create like a perfect scenario with composition with the balance of like color and where the art's situated on the canvas. And it can have perfect harmony. And when you can work that out, what I find is the only way to work it out is by looking at nature and how God created the world.
Wow.
And so the more you look at, say, there's a rule called the rule of thirds. And it's like if you set something on a canvas, which is set on a third and on a third, and you place a person there or a painting there and a lot of white space around it, it's going to have like harmony. It's going to look good. And we don't know why, but it's the way God created us. And the exact same thing is if you go and go more into depth than that and you draw a spiral on the canvas, it's the exact same. It's like a deeper version of this kind of harmony. And the way to find that in nature is like the koru that grows out of a fern. And it's like God created this koru, and it has like perfect harmony when you look at it. You're like, the way it grows out, you're like, it just looks pleasing to the eye, and we
beautiful.
don't know why.
Yeah, wow.
And the same as like, I just researched like a famous surfboard shaper from Australia called Jeff McCoy, and he's in his 80s now. And so he's got a surfboard fin, and this is like, I look at this as art. He was wanting a surfboard fin that would work in the water, and he went and he had this idea that seagulls or birds can fly. So technically you could put a bird's wing on the bottom of a board and it have the same effects, like you should be able to like go through the water the same as a bird would go through the wind.
Oh, wow.
And he took photos. I think he was chucking a whole bunch of chips up and stuff. And all these seagulls came in, and he said like hundreds of photos until he finally got one, and he printed out the seagull's wing, cut it out, and they made a fin out of it, and it made this fin called the gull wing. And it's like God invented that seagull's wing. Yeah. And this guy was able to like make art from it. But the reason why it was good was because it came from creation. Wow. So yeah.
So in the creation, when you're creating art, you're glorifying the creator in that sense.
Pretty much. It's I look at a lot of things I would like to do. Yeah. I love people. Yeah. And I love like hanging out with people and chatting. Yeah. I just think it's so great, and I get so energized. On the flip side, I've got a talent to make art. Yeah. That I need to do something with it because it's a God-given talent. Yeah. And it's a very like what would you call it? Like a introverted task. True. Which is the opposite of hanging out, wanting to hang out with people, right? Yeah. So I've got this kind of introvert, extrovert kind of life, whereas I like to draw, I like to do art, but I like to hang out with people. Yeah. To make sense of that, where I feel like God put the two together, that sermon where I sat and drew, like the artwork for the first time and translated what was saying into art, I then kept doing that. And I must have done that for like, easily 10 years. Wow. I had an agent probably about 7 or 8 years ago who said to me, this agency that we're working with, they're doing like a medical conference, and they want an artist to go and illustrate what they do. Yeah. All about their product. So they gave me the whole, like, everything about their drug. It was like a Panadol or something. Yeah. And so I translated everything about it into like visual form. Yeah, wow. And it was a thing. And next thing, this other company booked me through my agent, and we had like they said, we want this guy to do this thing, but we want him to sit and listen in the conference and translate it into graphics. And so
that's awesome.
Part of what I've done for like the last probably the thing I get booked the most for are these live drawing gigs. And it was never a thing. It's now got a name. It's called graphic recording. Wow. And there's people around the world now who they just like turn up and they'll take whatever's been said and draw it onto a wall and make sense of it. Yeah. And so I've done like one of the murals I did was like a 10 meter by 2.4 meter wall in a conference. It was like, must have been like 1,500 delegates there. Wow. And so everything that was spoken about over the course of a 3-day, conference, I would just draw on the wall, and people would come up and they'd be like, how the heck do you take
that info
that's been said? Like, that was just said, and you've turned it into like a picture. Wow. And I date that all back to like sitting in church and drawing, which was probably, looked at as like, what's that guy even doing?
He's not even listening.
He's not even listening. And it became a thing that I was able to like make money from and support my family.
So cool.
And like have like an art career that I actually felt like a sense of pride in. Yeah. So because artists like make no money. They generally do it because they love it. Yeah. The good ones make money when they die. But to be able to make art and, you know, make a living from it.
Yeah.
It's very fulfilling.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I just love that. My wife's obviously not here, but she was doing like family portraits. There's one on the wall here. And so she would have people message her that had like lost family members. And they would say, can you draw our family member in this family portrait at a certain age?
Make me cry, bro.
Oh, bro, honestly. But to have that ability, to have that gift, to be like, you can't get a photo of your whole family. Someone's missing.
Yeah.
But to be able to draw that in and communicate, hey, this is your whole family, and have that in one space is just, oh, bro, it's just such amazing. A gift from the Lord, eh?
It really is amazing that. And it's also being sensitive with what you're doing, you know, and having confidence in yourself to be able to do this. The one thing with artists, all of us lack so much confidence in what we do.
Yeah.
And the reason why is I reckon, like I was having a conversation with someone recently, and they were telling me how much of a perfectionist they were. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I was listening. And I was like, your life sounds nothing like my life. And the other perfectionists that I know, I was thinking to myself, you're actually you've actually just got really, really high standards.
Yeah.
And there's actually a clear-cut difference between that. And I think people who are perfectionists, nothing is ever good enough for them.
Yeah.
They're constantly... anything they do, they look at it and they're like, oh, it sucks. And then I think every project that a creative jumps into, whether it's a passion project or whether a client's booked you for a job, it's always this is so exciting.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't wait to start this. Ooh, like so like exotic and new and fresh. And then you start on it and you're like, oh, this is really hard.
Oh.
And then it's like this slow grind.
Yeah.
Just trying to get this project finished, and so much like self-doubt.
Yeah.
You get to the end of it and you're like, oh man, I'm just glad to get on the other side of that and it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the beauty in that is that it's almost a bit of striving, but it's like, how do I say it? It's I'm having like a blank moment here of how to like illustrate this to everyone. I would like to like think of a way to bring this back to like how God, you know.
Yeah.
How could I say it? Yeah, I don't know. It's beyond me. I think when, you know, like obviously God created the whole world.
Yeah.
And it's like beyond what we could comprehend.
Yeah.
And he did it, you know, so that we could look at nature and just be like, God must be real.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true.
But it's also like he empowered people
to
feel like that burden of creating something so perfect.
Yeah.
You know, that other people look on and they're like, the only way that you were able to create that was like, it couldn't have just been you.
Yeah.
Has to be a higher power.
Yes.
And I think a lot of that gets disguised in people talk about how they meditate and they go to weird places and they you know, like through that they're able to do these awesome things and stuff. But I think we're all given these gifts and stuff.
Yeah.
We just miss the ability to go and just be honest and be like, that was so hard for me to do. The only way I was able to create that thing that other people look on in awe is that it had to be God, you know? Because I look at work I do, not saying my work's like that incredible.
It is, bro.
But I look at my own work sometimes and I'm like, I don't even remember like how I managed to stitch all that together in my brain. Like I didn't.
Yeah.
It was purely meditative.
Yeah.
And
I think that's awesome, bro, because I think I've never thought about this before until you've said this, but that's in everything we do, whether we're an artist or a preacher or a, you know, whatever we're called to do in life, you know, a businessman, a businesswoman, there's always an element of faith of like us going beyond ourselves to glorify God. And I've actually never, until you said that now, seen that in the creative, like artistic process. When you take on a project or you start drawing or something, there's an element of like, I'm dependent on the Lord to create something that's going to be beyond me, that's going to glorify Him. Bro, that's beautiful. I've never seen that before. Like I was like, oh no, you're just super talented, so you just get a piece of paper and you just get it done, you know. But there is a step of faith, a trusting in the Lord, and like, hey, would you? Here I am. It's almost an act of surrender. Yeah. Like, hey, I want to do this to glorify you, even if I'm doing it for a secular client or whoever I'm doing it for. I want to do a work that's gonna be beyond me. That's gonna just point like. There's no way that you pulled that off in your own ability. Does that make sense? The other thing I'll say around that is that I've always had this kind of like weird relationship with the concept of emotion. I reckon being a man, you know, we're not supposed to be emotional. Right? I am, bro. Supposed to be. I cry in The Lion King every time. I actually avoid watching it so people don't see me cry. Yeah, fair enough. Man, I remember being like, my cousin's girlfriend took me to watch that when I was about 10. Yeah. And trying so hard not to cry. Just in the movies. It out, bro. Let it out. Because I didn't want her to think I was like weak, you know? And that's the thing, I reckon, like even as a 10-year-old, I knew it was weak for a boy to cry. Yeah. But I don't think like emotion on like a crying sense, but emotion on a like, I'm going to react on what I feel. Yeah. But having the wisdom to know that that's a good thing to act on. Yeah, come on. Well, I reckon all artists are so emotional that you could go up to an artist and be like, oh, I'm thinking of doing this thing, I want to do this, I want to do that. And if it sparks their interest, they're like, oh, new project. Yeah. Oh, yeah, exciting. Yeah. And they're like, yep. And then they go away and they're like, oh, I've got no time to do this. And they let you down, right? It's like a classic creative thing to do. Yeah, they make jokes about that, About creatives not being able to it's like creatives like, this is an illustration that makes sense. They tend to, like photographers, do a shoot, so excited on it. Yeah. And then they should go and edit it straight away and send it to the client within like that night. Yeah. Because if they leave it a day, the emotion's gone. The emotion from the shoot's gone. And to like get the emotion back to like go and, so I always looked at kind of emotion as like, was it bad? Is it good? And I actually look at it now and I go, I feel emotional about a certain thing. Yeah. And I go, all right, do I actually want to commit to doing this because it's going to be hard? Yeah. And yeah. It's so good, man. So anyone who's listening, that's obviously, you know, feels that same call or like, man, this is what I want to be in this creative thing. I want to, you know, fulfill that, be part of that. Like, what are the? Obviously, we've talked about a few things, but what are the? Like, do it. Yeah, no, do it. This is a podcast that says do it. Don't do it. I'm joking. Do it. Do it. Just do it. Yeah, just do it. But I mean, like, I guess I'm trying to process like how you, you know, how are you balancing? I mean, there'll be plenty of people that have like felt that call. You know, tried to write a song. Sounded terrible. You know, tried to create a piece of artwork or a sculpture, sucked, and have just put that whole call, you know, on the shelf right now. And they're like, well, it's too hard. I didn't like it. And like you were saying, there's that thing in an artist that, you know, you always want it to be better. So like, how are you balancing the this is a gift from God. I want to steward it. And not put it on a shelf, but then also realizing, hey, I'm probably going to look back at this. Yeah. You know, like my wife as well, like she'll look back on some paintings or some cakes she created. And at the time we were like, they're amazing. Now we look back and like, man, a cake's a good one. That wasn't great. Eaten. Yeah. Well, there's photos of this cake. All right. So it just doesn't get eaten and disappear. There's photos. But obviously you're growing. Yeah. You're growing in your gift and you're growing in your ability.
Yeah.
So like, how do you help people just realize the stark reality of the process, but to keep going? You know what I mean?
I always, this come back to that emotion thing. I always feel pulled in like so many different directions because I'm inspired by so many different things. And that's a really good thing. If you're that person, then you need to go and become a commercial artist or a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So that you can create, because you'll have so many good ideas and you're inspired by so many things, you can create a new brand every 2 weeks or something in your job. And it's that constant fulfillment of creating new things.
Yeah, cool.
The advice I have around, I think the biggest thing is trying to stick at something. So I'll put it this way. Most creatives, one day they do a drawing, the next day they do a painting, one day they write a song. Yeah. You know, and then the other day they decide that, oh wait, I'm now this like vegan chef and I'm doing avocado on toast and I'm going to photograph and do an Instagram account about it, you know? So they start the account. But it's like, if you do everything to the like first degree, it'll amount to nothing. Yeah. And if you can do one thing to the 10th degree, then you'll be able to achieve something.
That's good.
So I have to keep reminding myself, because I constantly look at other things that look more fun in the creative world, especially on Instagram. Like, you see so many talented people, you're like, flip, I could do that. And I could have that many followers and I would have that many views. So I'm going to do that now. Yeah. And I've got to be like, whoa, okay, what do? I do drawing. You know, that's my main thing. Yeah. And so I just got to keep drawing. And if I can just keep drawing, then I'll have my days where I'm like over it. Yeah. And generally because I'm tired and worn out. But the thing I can do without feeling exhausted, the thing that energizes me is drawing. So I just got to keep doing that first and foremost.
That's cool. That's a hard pill to swallow, I guess, if you're that way inclined, eh? And there's so many cool things to get involved in.
I always envy people that can just start one business and do that business their whole life. You know, I just think that would just ruin me. You know, But I want to be that person that's like so consistent. You know, But then I'd be like an accountant or something, right?
No.
Someone that's really good. Exactly. I've just got to embrace the fact that I want to do 1,000 different things every day. And
and just manage that. Yeah. And that's okay. Yeah. That's so good, bro. I love that. I'm trying to think what else would be helpful to, anything else that you think would be helpful to people listening right now that are running this road?
I just thought of something. So one thing with, I feel like being a Christian and being a creative is I always really struggle with reading. Like reading, it's not that I'm a bad reader. I can read fine. I just can't absorb information while reading. Yeah. So if I need to absorb information on a topic, I actually pretty much only do the audio Bible. Yeah. So I'll chuck on the audio Bible and I'll draw, because I've worked out that if I can, my wife, she thinks, like all wives, they think that men and husbands just don't listen. Sons, husbands, they never listen. No. But if she was to come to me and say, you need to do these 5 things while I'm out, because the kids need like ballet recital, you got to pick up this thing and you got to take this kid to this party. Yeah. If I get my sketchbook and I write it, but I write it in good handwriting and make it a piece of art and she says it, man, I don't even have to look back at the list. I know, because I cracked the code on what works for me. So if I'm feeling very unholy, which is sometimes, and I just need, like we were talking about this today, I just needed some encouragement in my faith. Yeah. So I chucked on that Phil Pringle.
Yeah, come on.
Clip. And but if I was to chuck on that clip and draw, man, I would absorb so much more of that.
Wow.
So I think, like, you know, creatives just need to really embrace the fact that God made them backwards.
Backwards.
And inside out, you know?
Yeah.
It's God just made them to be frustrating to organize people.
Yeah.
And as a creative, a lot of times you get told, oh, you're a black hole, everything we tell you vanishes. Or like you don't listen, or like you overpromise, you underdeliver.
Yeah.
I think creatives just need to understand that we are so different.
Yeah.
And what we can do can be truly powerful.
Oh, 100%.
But we got to work out how we work.
Yes.
And what works for us, and just embrace it. Like, just be okay with the fact that you've got to sit in a sermon and draw.
Yeah.
Or you got to sit in a sermon and take notes, or like, it's like a, it's where I think creatives are like a minority that, we don't really make sense, but
no,
God made us with the ability to, like, as you say, do incredible things.
Yeah.
That people cannot, like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, actually don't know. I just did it. You know?
So it's obviously a big key to figure out the way that God made you, embrace that, run with that.
Yeah, big time.
Obviously that would help with the flow of creativity as well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I always feel most inspired in worship.
Yeah.
And I get these wild ideas. And I always make sure to have a pen here on my collar and my T-shirt.
Yeah.
Always. Because I always get ideas and you got to capture them. You got to write them down.
Yeah, come on.
They just vanish.
Yeah.
But you'll get plenty more ideas. But there's something special, I think, about being in church and being in worship.
Yeah.
And it's a really like I find some places in my week to week, especially if there's too much admin.
Yeah.
Or just too much work to do. It's all dry.
Yeah.
And I get frustrated and I can't get anything. But something about being in church is like, there's a real connection there, eh?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I mean, it is God.
Yeah.
God's at church.
Yeah, God, I hope so. If he's not, I don't know what we're doing, but I'm sure he turns up. That's so true, man. Because I was thinking about the other day, like I was trying to process through some stuff and I was praying stuff through and reading my Bible, and it was like, it just wouldn't shift. And then I just ended up putting worship on, like in the house, and just like really loud. And bro, I just started bawling, eh? And it was just like all this stuff was just getting sorted inside me. But it's realizing how God's made you and how he's wired you, and just being like, no, this is our time. And not changing that, eh? Because it just stifles creativity.
And so you've worked out what works for you, right?
Yep.
Like you knew you needed to shift that thing and you couldn't do it. Like the Bible can just be so dry to some creatives, you know, a lot of us, because we need the emotion there.
Yeah.
And the emotion can turn up like that if you chuck on worship music.
Yeah.
Because worship music's so creative, you know?
It is, eh? It's true.
Yeah.
It's another form of creativity, eh?
Yeah.
Expression to the Lord. So good. Bro, I feel like I want to be a creative.
Do it.
I got my pen here and my paper. I've just written your name.
Like, I'm going to judge you.
A couple dashes. So I do a self-portrait.
You've got a ballpoint pen, and I'm just like...
where's your fountain pen?
Fountain pens, yeah.
Come on.
I think, like, being a creative, it's okay to do things the most painful way.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about pens. You've got a ballpoint pen there? Because they work every time.
Yeah.
Fountain pen needs tuned. Like, I'm talking, like, you got to look after them. You have to keep putting ink in them. I would carry one round because I feel empowered with the pen. I'm like, I could create something with this epic creation of a pen. It's like,
it's ready to go.
An artist made the pen.
Yeah.
That's why I want to use it.
I'm ready to go. Inspired.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Bro, it's been so good just diving into this, man. I feel like there's so much more still in there.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to recap just for people who are listening about understanding who you are, how God's made you, and just, I think the sooner you can get comfortable in your own skin and who you are and what God's called you to do, the more all of this stuff, your gifting, your calling, all flows in an unrestricted way. And I think we've done a lot of injustice to a lot of people by trying to make them look and act like other people do.
Yeah.
It's just we need more flavor in the world, not more cookie cutter factories kind of thing.
And especially within creative communities, like there's a lot of very hurt people.
Yeah.
There's always this kind of like thought that when normal kids go to art school, they turn into like wild, like what, like they like got pink hair and like it's just art school. They get very expressive because all their friends are as well.
Yeah,
get very out there, But I think it's good. Like just work out who you are and be happy with who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
And hearing these words come out my mouth, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
That's right. Yeah,
that's what I gotta do.
Yeah, that's it. I'm the same, bro.
Oh man.
How would I guess I got one more question of like how would you because what you create is so personal to you, like you're the creator of that piece, like how would you be processing if you created something that you didn't really like or other people didn't like, and how do you separate that from like your identity as an artist and just be like, yeah, cool, that one didn't turn out, no one liked that, and then be able to go again because it's so personal. It's like, I made this. I can't blame anyone else. This is my thing.
We have this like within like an advertising industry, which I don't do a lot of work in, but there's creatives and there's suits.
Yeah.
And so the creatives do all the creative work in the art department, and the suits do all the client side.
Okay.
Right?
So they separate it.
And so they come to you with like, we need this ASAP.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't like that. But it doesn't matter if it's a Vodafone like brochure.
Yeah.
And someone says you don't like it. A creative hears, I don't like you.
I don't like you. Yeah. It's the same with sermons, bro.
Exactly,
like sermon, you
right?
don't like me. Okay, cool.
Sermon writing is like this creative process.
Yeah, true.
It has to be to connect with like the human soul.
Yeah.
And what's the point of doing it if you're not going to connect with humans?
Yeah.
Right? You're just going to be, and this is going back to what you said before, if you're not feeling the artwork yourself, it's generally because you're looking at other people's art that you think is better.
Wow, so good.
And you're trying to create what they're trying to create. I do this all the time. It's that Instagram thing again. I'm like, I could do that.
Yeah.
And then I try and put a bit of that into my work, and I'm like, I feel like a fraud. I know it.
So
I'm dissatisfied
right
with that. Yeah. Yeah. I just, when I look at some of the work I do, I can look at it and I think it's like God when, he made Adam and Eve and he said, I'm well pleased. Did he say that?
Good. Yeah, he said it's good.
Like, I'm like,
this is good work.
This is good. I'm stoked with this. And now I can rest.
Yeah.
I have moments where I'll do an artwork and I'll be like, I'm actually pretty stoked with that.
Yeah, come on. That's awesome.
So, that's kind of like you just got to, actually, as generic as it sounds, you just got to be yourself.
Yeah.
And,
So you're not taking it personal?
Oh, I don't think I'll ever not take it personal. I just look at the person now in the most unjudgmental way, and I think, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, like in my head, I'm
You're a suit. You're a suit.
Yeah, just like, who even are you? In the nicest possible, like Jesus loving way. Who are you?
Those kind eyes.
I mean, I could flip a table, but I might damage my fountain pen.
That's true. You got to look after that.
Yeah.
Fountain pen. No, I just think that's good to be aware of, man. It's so personal, obviously, what you're putting out. So, but I love what you said, bro, because comparisons, it's the killer, in all our lives and who we are, to compare ourselves with what other people are doing. And
it's like the disease of our generation.
Yeah, well, it's actually it's a fruit of the flesh. You know, Paul talks about it, that comparison and jealousies and insecurities. They're all from a low sense of our own identity, of who we are and what God's put in us. And we actually end up devaluing who we are and what God's put in us by comparing it to something else or somebody else. So like you said, as soon as you accept that, who you are, what you're doing, hey, this is my style, this is my flavor, this is what it looks like. Like I look at all your work, bro, and I'm like, I can already tell, I'm like, that's Allan Wrath.
Yeah, thanks.
And I think that's awesome. I'm like, these are Allan Wrath's children, you know, all these artworks. And I think that's just so
I'll say
cool.
this, like with my artwork, it's taken me from trying to do it like the best I can. It's probably taken 15 years since the moment I decided I'm going to be a commercial artist.
Yeah.
It's taken me that long, and I thought I would arrive within 2 years. And
arrive like in the sense of your style, and
my style would just be the epitome.
Yeah.
And I would be the best, you know, within 2 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like 15 years in, and it's taught me so much patience to like get to where I'm at and be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to just like give up and just throw it all in the trash like every 2 years.
Yeah.
Like I'm just done with this. But because I picked the thing that I know God created me to do, I just know I just got to keep serving that.
Yeah.
Because I'll be, you know, like I'll feel satisfied, you know?
100%. And what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, you could do other things, but I mean, what else are you going to...
Yeah, I know.
What else are you going to do?
Become a campus pastor in Queenstown.
Yeah, bro. You go
Looks
for
pretty
it.
good out the window right there. I am looking at the remarks. So.
Hey?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hear the Lord. I hear the Lord calling me.
I feel like if I was here in this office, I would draw all day.
Hey, I've tried.
I'd be so
the drawings
distracted.
aren't great.
I'd be drawing.
Bro, I was trying to crack up before you were saying about how your wife gives you a list of stuff to do and how you make it into an art piece, and I'm just imagining your house with just all these to-do lists as artwork just framed on the wall, on the fridge. Or a big drawer full of them.
A couple that I work with who are youth pastors.
Yeah.
I'm very touched, but I'm like, it's not very good. In my heart, I look at it. But I wrote, Andy, call me.
Yeah.
I think I wrote that, and I left it on his desk. And they
Framed it.
They put it up on their wall as like they were like, thought it looked so good. And I was like, I'm very touched, and I'm very grateful that people like my work. But yeah.
That's it, bro. You've hit it.
Yeah.
If people are framing your notes, you're leaving them on the desk.
Yeah.
I think that's it. You're a fully fledged artist. So.
I made it.
You made it, bro.
I'll take
you
that.
can just look at that and say, it is good. All right. That's awesome. All right, so good, bro. Okay, I'm going to get you to pray for everyone that's listening and just bless them. And thank you so much for jumping on, bro. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I'll give I'm not like a long prayer. Not like one of those eagles.
You have to be.
So
at least 5 minutes.
5 minute prayer.
Nah, bro. You pray that you want to pray.
It's a standard. So
who am I to tell a creative how they can pray? All right. So
I think creatives pray the best, so they need to be confident in that. So
you're talking this prayer up, so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. It's probably going to be like a. So anyway, Lord,
come on.
Thank you, Lord. Lord, I just thank you for like the conversation we've been able to have, because Lord, I really feel like you were in it, and I feel like if people could listen to this podcast a second time, they would actually get from this what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
And God, we just pray that the right people would hear this. And I pray for everyone right now listening to this that they'd feel inspired. And right now I just pray that they would just know like what they need to do and who they are as a creative.
Yeah.
And I just pray that people would just be blessed, you know, in their going. And when they would be resting, they'd be chilling out, when they'd be in worship, they would just hear from God what the right creative projects are that they need to do.
Yeah.
And I just pray that people would just have tenacity to be able to, like, you know, flesh that thing out and turn it into a thing and then do it again and again and again. And I just pray that people would just, Lord, you just send the right people to listen to this podcast. And thank you to all that are listening to it.
All the listeners.
And we just pray that you would be blessed.
Come on.
Amen.
Amen.
I told you creative prayers are the other weirdest.
I was like, where's this going? And it went up, and it just keep going up. It's just
Let's redo that prayer.
Nah, bro.
I'll do it more like a formal church prayer.
Nah, bro. I like that prayer. That's a great prayer. Hey, Allan, love you, man. Thank you so much for jumping on, bro. It's such a pleasure. So
thanks for having me.
Come on. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Allan Wrath. And if you want to see more of Allan's artwork or get connected with Allan, you can find him on Instagram, Allan Wrath, or you can go to allanwrath.com and you can see all the stuff that he's doing. He's just an amazing man, doing some great stuff for the Lord. So I encourage you to check that out. Also, if you're looking for a community to encourage you, to help you, if you want to stay up to date with what's happening with the Ready Soda movement, please feel free to join the private Facebook group called The Salt Shaker. There's a community of people there who would love to encourage you. We're pressing and pursuing God together. And so if that sounds like you, make sure you give that a follow. All right. As always, if you think this would help anyone, please feel free to share, subscribe, and pray you have an amazing rest of your day. Bless you.